All right, welcome into the PFF studios once again. We're here with Sam Hubbard, who is just retired from the Cincinnati Bengals. You look way too young to be retired, but congratulations on a great career. Give us a little insight as to the decision. Why are you not out there getting ready for training camp right now?
Yeah, well, I just turned 30 last week, but I had a great 7 years with the Bengals, and I feel like I gave everything I had to the team and the city. And, I was coming down to training camp this past year, and, those injuries kind of build up, and you're, realizing there could be an end in sight. And I made that decision kind of early in the season with my friends and family that this would be my last season. I could really enjoy it. And, caught a touchdown on my last pass, had some memorable moments. But ultimately, I wanted to stay in Cincinnati and build my legacy here. It's not often you get drafted to your hometown and have an opportunity to do foundation work and all the people who have supported you throughout your life to come to your games. And I didn't just want to go to another city and start all over. So the opportunity to, hang it up as a Bengal once and forever was something I didn't want to let go. And I felt like it was my time, and I'm excited about the future prospects of whatever comes my way.
You got the Bengals here. You got Ohio State, where you went to school, just up the road. And you're very much one of those hometown heroes. It seems like every NFL team has like one of those guys, that sort of grew up in the area. Was it bizarre going out there wearing that Bengals uniform for the first time?
It was an interesting experience at first because we're facing those, back into Marvin's career, there's a bit of turmoil among the fan base. We were having some losing seasons back to back, and then all of a sudden you're on the team and all your friends are, talking to you about, what happened, yada, yada, and you feel a bit more weight on yourself having been through, everything the Bengals have been through recently. And, you want to go that much harder to turn things around. And, some guys come from out of town and don't know the history. And I really felt like every time I stepped on the field, like I was representing everyone that I knew. So especially my second year going 0-11, I woke up every day just trying to turn it around and, didn't want to see people in the street because, like, what's going on? I really took that to heart. So then to see it go full circle and to turn it into, a Super Bowl appearance, it was like 10x the opposite direction. So I got to experience both polar opposites and tried to just stay level through it all and bring other guys around me, to that new winning standard, the culture we were trying to establish. And I'm thankful for the ride because I experienced it all, I got to say.
It's interesting because you talk about that Super Bowl year, but Zach Taylor had two not so good seasons. There was some speculation he wouldn't make it to a third season. He did. Mm-hmm. You guys go on to the Super Bowl. Is there anything in your mind other than Joe Burrow, Jamarr Chase, maybe that flipped the switch for that team and turned it around?
I think it was a bit of the perfect storm. I think that we had a lot of battle-hardened young guys that have been through a lot of adversity that made up the core of the team. And then Joe gets back healthy from an ACL. We sign a bunch of, guys, free agents from winning programs, Von Bell, Trey Hendrickson, Riley Reef. I mean, the list goes on and on, Larry Ogunjobi. And we mix those, guys that have been around, been through tough times, people that only knew winning, and then great young players. It was like lightning in a bottle.
It was such I called the game. Mm-hmm. There was we've seen you do great things on the field. It was the fumble return, the 98-yarder that was unbelievable in the playoff game. But the play a couple of plays stick out for me in that Super Bowl. One was the pass interference call, and it was third down and about 8 on their 8-yard line, something like that. Get the pass interference in a call where there were very few penalties called. Yeah. I mean, very few. And it was one of those, could it be called a foul? Maybe, I guess, but it wasn't sort of within the spirit of what had been called to date. Can you take me back to that moment, that call, and then maybe the first time you saw it on television or something after the fact?
Yeah, it was a long drive going down there, and we knew that they just couldn't score the touchdown. We had to keep them, outside the line of the goal line, and we felt like they were, moving down, but we were not going to let them score. And we were exhausted. I remember Jermaine Pratt behind me had like a pulled groin, and we were double chipping the running back because he had him in man. And, we were just slugging it out by any means, keeping him out of the end zone. And then we feel like we get the stop and there's a flag on the ground. We didn't even know who it was on. No one was talking to anybody. We were just like, all right, 3 more downs. But you go back and look on the play, and it's just, you could spend all day thinking about it, but we flushed it. I know Logan Wilson flushed it because we don't feel like it was personal or pass interference, and focused on getting there the next year. And thankfully we almost did, but AFC Championship didn't make it. You realize after you get there how hard it is to get back and how special that moment was. But that's the game.
Yeah, playing opposite of you at the end of your career was Trey Hendrickson, who came out last year and was really remarkable. He had, 17 and a half, led the league in sacks, right? Yeah. And to see what he did, and now he's going through contract stuff. But in your opinion, what happened to that guy? He was a good player, right? And then he came here and he's, double-digit sacks, and then but 17 and a half, lead the league. That's a whole nother step for him.
Yeah, no doubt. I think it's just a testament of what doing, your craft and living the right way can compound over time. Like Trey eats perfectly, sleeps perfectly, constantly works on his game, is obsessed with football. And, you do that your first couple of years, you can be pretty good. You do that for, 8 years straight, and,
gets old.
Not for him. He's wired where he could do it all day, and that's what makes him special. And to do 17 and a half sacks back to back at that late in your career, and I still have full confidence he'll be able to do it again because I'm training with him right now, even though I'm not getting ready for camp. I
was gonna say, you look good, man.
He reached out to me, wanted a training partner while he's in town. I was like, hey, I still got to stay healthy, so let's get after it. So it's like old times.
It's obvious now with some change going on the defense. Obviously, you're not there. We've got Mike Hilton not there, Von Bell. So you go down the list to some extent. And Lou Anarumo, no longer lost his job. Al Golden comes in. And I think Al was there when you were there, right?
For a few years.
So in your opinion, so what changes now? Because I sat in on one of Lou's meetings one time, and the defense is like, I think the typical fan out there thinks about defense as, they're either playing a 34 or 43 and some zone defense or man, right? That's it. The details of that defense, and especially in the secondary, what those guys were expected to read, change, pass it off, all the different things, pretty complex stuff. With Al, he seems to be, or at least at Notre Dame he was, a little bit more of a pressure kind of guy. Like, what do you think will be different now with him as a defensive coordinator?
Yeah, Lou was, he was a safeties coach early in his career and really focuses on the defense from a, back end down view. Like, spends a lot of time talking to the back end about checks, reads, and then we had a great defense line coach, Marion Hobby, that would handle a lot of the front things, but Lou was very involved in the calls and all that. But I think that, Al is very focused on, the front seven and pressure and not as much involved in the back end. I can't even tell you what was going on back there because Von Bell and Jesse Bates, they'd been with Lou so long, they were all speaking like their own language as far as coverage. But I think that, maybe with the younger group that they have and all the veterans having left, maybe trying to take some off of Logan Wilson's plate because he seems to be, he calls every play, but he's like one of the last remaining guys from that era. So maybe it'll be a bit more, pressure, simpler calls, less checks. I can't speak to it. I don't know, but I knew that Al was very tried to get guys to play fast by making sure they knew what they were doing and why, and that's kind of his MO.
I met Jesse Bates several times, and of course, money's money in the NFL. He got a great offer from Atlanta. He took it, went down. And it's tough, right? You got to prioritize positions. You're trying to sign all these superstar players on the offense, and stuff happens. Nobody's blaming anybody. But Jesse Bates is one of those kind of personalities. The minute you meet him, you know he's smart. You know he knows what's happening back there. And I'm going, okay, he was kind of, and Vaughn was kind of the perfect fit for Anarumo. And then last year it was a lot more youth back there, you know, and you just wondered how much of a difference that really made.
Yeah, no, Jesse and I came in together. He was the second-round pick. I was the third-round pick. He was redshirt sophomore coming out, and I think he was like 21 years old, but Marvin picked him for a reason, and I saw him, you know, mature into a vocal leader over his career, and he definitely, you know, led a lot of the communication back there, as well as Von Bell, and you can't replicate, no matter how talented a young guy is, to just come in and replicate that experience, those reps, those years together. There's going to be a learning curve, and not that those guys aren't as talented, but it's a learning curve to get that replaced. And you know, I still talk to him. I still see him doing the same celebration, getting guys together with the Falcons, and yeah, we're locked in forever, me and Jesse.
It's almost impossible to talk about the Cincinnati Bengals now without talking about what Joe Burrow has meant to this city, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I've been here for a long, long time. I was around with Pete Rose and Johnny Bench, and you just couldn't have been a bigger superstar. Boomer, you know, some of these guys that were the big names, the big personalities. But it just seems like Joe is almost on another level, sort of the Ohio roots. And can you describe what it's like for him? Because when you meet him, he's kind of soft-spoken. He's not one of those flashy, he's not Boomer Esiason, he's not one of those in-your-face kind of guys. And yet in clutch time and under pressure, he just seems like he tends to have an answer.
Yeah, no, he, you know, we go way back. We've been friends since college, before when we were both on scout team at Ohio State. I used to, you know, we had a little group chat with our friends, and Joe was trying to gain a lot of weight, and I was trying to gain a lot of weight, and I would be like, who wants to go out to eat? And the only one that answered was Joe. So we would go on to BD's Mongolian Grill and get the all-you-can-eat bowl and, you know, fry it up in front of us, and that's how we really got to know each other well. And then, you know, stuff progresses, and, you know, we're the first overall pick. He's this Heisman winner. You know, we go to the Super Bowl, Joe and I together, because I'm living in Fort Lauderdale training, and he's going to the Super Bowl with, you know, all his appearances, and he's like, hey, you want to tag along? So I go along, and I'm talking to him about Zach and the culture and how he could change it, and he comes in, and you know, it was COVID, so it was a bit different, but in 2021 you really got to see how in big pressure moments he just stays Joe. He stays calm. I think he's been wired that way his whole life. He's just not flapped by any situation or you know, adversity or the biggest moments. He's not going to act like anyone other than Joe, and that just permeates throughout a team. And those are the moments you win games. So if you have someone with the ball in control in moments like that acts like that, then that's what I think sets him apart. And people can't really see how he stays so, you know, cool in those moments. And I think they're, you know, they want to get to know why. Like, they want more, you know, of this kid. And, you know, it's just, he's built to be a quarterback. Can't describe it.
Did you so you meet him, and the one thing that stuck out to me from our conversations with him was the guy goes to bed at like 8 o'clock during football season.
Yeah.
And, you know, as a kid that was that young and single at one time, I guarantee you I wasn't going to bed at 8 o'clock, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's got a little bit of that to him as well, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah, the discipline. I think that he was raised that way. His dad's a coach. But I think that was, you know, that's the culture of a lot of the guys on our team. You know, I was doing the same thing. We would have lunch together every day and talk about, you know, how are you feeling? What are you doing for recovery? Hyperbaric chambers at home. How'd you sleep last night? Like, it's, you know, we're not – most of the guys that were, you know, the good players and still to this day are the great players are focused on how do they perform at their best week in, week out. that's the cool thing, and that's what Joe has made the cool thing in the locker room. So he's, chef, 8 o'clock, massages on your off day, recovery, workouts, never missing a lift. Those are just non-negotiables. And to talk about something else during the season, off season, you can have plenty of fun. And he does have his fun in off season.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah, that's how it's scripted up to be. That's the right way to do it.
Did you ever play basketball with him? He was supposed to be like one of the best basketball players in the state of Ohio.
Yeah, I think he was Mr. Ohio for basketball.
Was,
but in our weight room, we've got the basketball hoop, and they'll shoot, and he's got a nice shot. But I haven't played with him. I'm not a hooper really. I'll watch them play their pig and horse. It's fun, yeah.
And cut them loose. It was an exciting time offensively. I mean, I played receiver for the Bengals, and I look at Jamarr Chase and I go, I think I've seen some of the best receivers in the game, in the history of the game, and certainly in the history of Cincinnati with Isaac Curtis and Chad Ochocinco, and 2 guys already in the Hall of Fame here.
Yeah.
I don't think there's ever been one like him. I mean, he is built like a tank. He's built like a running back. He gets his hands on the ball. And there was a play, who was it against? But there was like 4 guys, a quick screen, like 4 guys on that side of the field. And it was like he was invisible.
I think that was Carolina this past year.
Yeah, it may. And I'm just like, what is going on with this guy?
Yeah.
And he's an interesting character as well. You know, he's extremely confident as he should be. But as a teammate, what kind of guy is he?
Jamarr is one of the best teammates I've ever played with. He is extremely competitive. Like you said, he's confident, but his confidence comes from, how great of a player and athlete he is and his preparation. Like, he does not, when it's game day, it's game day for Jamarr, and he treats every practice like game day. He's incredibly loyal to his teammates. He's one guy that's never going to tap out. I don't think he's ever tapped out in his life. And, that's, sometimes receivers, if they don't get the ball or something, he'll let you know if he wants the ball, because we get him the ball, good things are going to happen, and we haven't gotten to him enough. But I got a lot of respect for Jamarr. And even when you're losing, he's fighting to the end. And you got to love players like that.
Yeah. It was a bit of a tough year for this defense a season ago, and I know it probably you take it personally, all those guys take it personally. When you look back on it, what do you think happened? Because, you had the Super Bowl run, you guys have been so close, you're right there, with Kansas City. You could have beaten them again in Kansas City. What was it last year if you had to try and put your finger on it? Was it just health?
It was just a tough year overall. I feel like a lot of things bounced our way previous years. This year, we're week 2, chance to win against Kansas City.
That was unbelievable. The pass interference down there.
So that happens, and then it's all a blur, but we have many games where it's just like an inch away, and then all of a sudden we're 6-3 instead of 3-6 or whatever it was. But injuries are part of the game. We had our defensive line banged up for most of the year, and a lot of young guys mixing together. But it was just a tough year all around. I think that our offense played incredible, and defensively didn't live up to the standard. And hopefully, they get it right this year, and the offense is going to be humming, and the defense can get enough stops to do what they want to do.
You've chased a lot of great quarterbacks in your day. I mean, is there one that Lamar, you see him twice a year, right? Yeah. Josh Allen looks like a tank running down the field. There's Patrick Mahomes has just been phenomenal. Is there one that sticks out in your mind?
It's got to be Lamar. We've played him so many times. He's just so elusive, and at any time where there's a critical moment in the game where that this play is going to define the game, and Lamar is going to, it's going to be a zone read or some type of action where Lamar is going to keep the ball, and somehow he always gets the first down. I mean, every time I can think back to 2022 in Baltimore, 16-19, or it was 16-16, final drive, and it's like 3rd and 7, and he pulls his own read and cuts it up for 8 yards. They kick a field goal, and we knew it was coming. We prepared for it, but he made 4 guys miss because he's just going to get it. But I have the most of my sacks on Lamar. I mean,
do you really?
Yeah, I think it's like 5, but I've missed way more than I've gotten just because he's unbelievable. Like, and he's not slowing down, which is.
He could have been the MVP last year too. I mean, that was a toss-up.
I still think Joe should have been the MVP.
Yeah, Joe could have been. I mean, there were a lot of guys in the mix with that one. Aaron Rodgers goes to Pittsburgh in the division, right? When you first heard that news, what was your initial thought of the Pittsburgh Steelers and what was going to happen?
My initial first thought is that Achilles are usually 2-year injuries.
Yeah.
This past year could have been, a year where you're working back, and he could have a great year with the things that they're doing, signing DK Metcalf, and I was talking to some Steeler fans recently, and the Steelers are doing things that they have fans. I'm not a Steelers fan, but they say they don't typically do, and they're interested in Jalen Ramsey. So it seems like they're trying to do whatever they can to get those veterans, Cam Hayward, TJ Watt, a ring, and
it's like a one-off shot.
Yeah, it's like an all-in. If it's not going to work with Aaron, I think they got Mason Rudolph, right?
Yeah.
But they're banking on. I mean, I can't talk ill of Aaron Rodgers, the career he's had, so I think they're banking on that being a bounce-back year for this tough injury, and we'll see how it shakes out.
Yeah, it's because at his best, Aaron could make people miss. He was the best at like holding it, stepping up, and if you're rush forward, there's 2 gaps that you can't account for, right? I mean, it's just there, and he just glided into him, and the arm was just so much. It's going to be interesting to see if he can get back to the mobility that allowed him to play like that. That was always my question about him at this point in his career.
Yeah, no, that's what set him apart. I remember in 2021, they beat us. It was literally the Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers show. It was like they're playing backyard football, drawing up their own routes and concepts, and those 2 won the game single-handedly, and he was so elusive. But, that's a tough injury, and if he can get that mobility back, I think the Steelers got a good offensive line. They got some good young tackles. But, protection breaks down, and you got to get out and be creative in the NFL. So we'll see how they do.
It feels like the league is changing a little bit. We just saw Jalen Hurts win the Super Bowl. This idea of the quarterbacks who are also run threats, right? Even Baker Mayfield became a run threat a season ago. But you guys saw the Eagles last year. That was the one game that kind of got away from you. Yeah. They were that tough. What made them that? Because their offensive line has been tremendous. Their defensive line has been tremendous. And to have that dual threat quarterback to go along with Saquon, obviously, it was almost too much to cover.
Yeah, I think that, especially the receivers too, I think that the offensive line is really what makes it all go around. Lane Johnson and Mailata, I think is how you say it, the left tackle. Plus those guys, the guards on the inside, Dickerson. The center's a great player too. But
Juergens,
that line is, in my opinion, the best line in the NFL. Then you have Jalen Hurts with the ball, and you're playing zone read when you want versus Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley with that offensive line. So it's
like Derrick Henry with the Ravens, right? It's like pick your poison. Which one are you going to play?
It's crazy. That's the first thing you have to defend. And then some great blocking tight ends that can also catch, Dallas Goedert. And then if they want to throw the ball, they've got like a 3-headed monster out there on the edge. So it's an incredible roster, but I think they execute really well to the strengths. And I think Saquon had 210 yards or something when they played us, and if they do that, then everything's opened up. So you got to stop, first Saquon, then you got to stop the QB scramble, then you got to stop them throwing. It's a dangerous setup they've got building over there.
You know what's interesting about that, and that's the cliche always of defensive football, right? You got to stop the run.
Right.
And yet what we've seen over the last couple of years are much more of the 2 deep safety look, right? And I think it was sort of a product of Tyreek Hill and the Kansas City Chiefs. And so people said, all right, fine. We're just going to take away the big play. We're going to play 4 deep, basically. And if you want to run it for 5 yards, have at it.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden we went from running backs are worthless. We're not going to pay them anything. Now people are playing these 2 deep safety looks. And now the pressure's really on the front 7 to try and stop the run. Now you got to play the run without a safety down and still go get these quarterbacks who might, oh, by the way, run 4 or 5 and be able to get around. So is it the game sort of changed during the course of your career?
Yeah, I think I've seen it, kind of evolve like it always does. I started off playing with Marvin Lewis, where it was kind of a old school defense where you're in a 4-3, stop the run. Your linebackers are 250 and plugging gaps. And then, we saw the Chiefs go with, Tyreek and dominate the league. And when we played them and had success, I think we beat them 3 out of 4 times. We played all too high shell, stop the run with 7 guys and double team Tyreek, keep everything underneath, make sure Pat doesn't scramble, keep him in the pocket. And then you see the running backs, like you said, they're, don't pay them. There was like a year or 2 of that, a whole thing. And then, you see later in the year, the teams that had success were ones that had strong running games in cold weather. Teams are playing in Buffalo and -10 or whatever, but the emphasis is back on having a great running game. Derrick Henry surges, Saquon's back, they all get paid. It's been crazy to see, but I think that the running game is, back, and it's, important. And the teams that have success late in the year, when it's too cold or too wet to throw the ball, if you can't stop the run, you can go 4 straight games in the playoffs just running down teams' throats that our defenses are beat up.
It really did happen that way, a lot. And Jaden Daniels, another young quarterback. You guys saw him last year too, right? He had a couple over the top.
His coming out party, it was, we lost to them, and we saw this guy play out of his mind, and we're like, that's the Commanders. They've been struggling. Like, we must, have played poorly, and then they go out and have the season. It was
playing in the championship game.
Yeah,
It really has been. It's such an interesting game now. We've seen so many of these young players come out, and the Bo Nixes of the world, the Michael Penix Jr. comes in there and has some good looking plays. Is the game now really about these young quarterbacks? Because if you can get to them, if you can get a really good young quarterback and get them on those rookie wages, right? Now you can pay the rest of the team. So now you have linebackers and defensive tackles and things that you can't afford. But the game seems like it's really become about those young guys and those first 4 years of their deals.
Yeah, I think that, I didn't play as much when, I wasn't in the league yet, when it was, sit behind a guy for a year and, take your time and learn the game. There's so much of coverage and complexities of the game. Now you got to come in ready to play. It's a tough game. I don't know how these rookies are coming in and dicing up the league so well, but I think that probably the coaches do a great job playing to their strengths. But the cap keeps going up. Every salary keeps going up. You see GMs getting creative with how they do deals to make room. Like, I still don't know where the Eagles are getting all the money to pay everybody. It amazes me. But it's a huge advantage to have rookie quarterbacks on their rookie deal and to sign them early so that I think Josh Allen's now on his 3rd deal, right? Like, I saw his rookie. I played him as a rookie. Saw his 1st deal, saw his 3rd deal, but it's crazy how the cap keeps going up with all these streaming deals.
Your favorite moment of your career when you look back on it now? Obviously, I was there for one of the great ones, the whole 98-yard fumble return and Mike Tirico's great call of that. And I can remember going, I can't add anything to that, man. That was just one of those incredible moments in the Bengals stadium. Anything else in your mind walking on the field for the Super Bowl? Anything stick out?
Yeah, well, the run back, obviously, but my favorite personal play is the AFC Championship the year prior against the Chiefs, the sack on Patrick Mahomes, just because it was such a battle. And, like, that moment, they go 12 plays. If they score, we're out. If we hold them to a field goal, we're going to overtime, and we had just scored 21 straight, like Joe was going to score. And they are on the 8-yard line. They have 3 downs. You know, we get a low gain. Second down, I get a sack on a scramble, just chasing Patrick Mahomes down. And then the third down, it's just everybody's exhausted. He's scrambling around. It's like an 18-second play. And I feel like everything I've done in my life, training-wise, preparation, it paid off in that moment, being in shape enough to go chase him down, get it, cause a fumble, kick the field goal. We go to OT, we win, and then we're in the Super Bowl. All those tough seasons, all the losing. I was the guy that made the play to take us to a Super Bowl. In my mind, I mean, that's how I view it, and I think I'll forever be grateful for that flight home. How everybody, talked to me, and it was just a surreal series of moments for a kid from Cincinnati.
Yeah, it was great. Well, we enjoyed watching you play forever. We're happy you're staying in Cincinnati. It's great to have the good guys that'll hang around a little bit. So it's been a fantastic career. Congratulations on what you mean to Cincinnati, and we look forward to having you around here in PFF a little bit.
Yeah,
we hope you'll come back.
It's beautiful. I'm excited to check it out. We'll be back for sure. Thanks for having me.
You got it. Thanks, Sam.